Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities Behind Black Business. And tonight, we have another special guest for you, Miss Toni Brooks. And Toni is a running for mayor of Chicago. Uh, that's a big undertaking. So we have to give you some clap for that because that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of tenacity, a lot of vision, a lot of strength because of what all we have. Chicago being one of the most segregated cities in the
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that we have going on here. It's a big undertaking, but we do appreciate you taking on that task and definitely for being on our show tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And as I was telling you, we are a nonprofit foundation, and we came together to try and enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses so that dollar can circulate in our community. Because as we know, the dollar, Tony, only circulates in our community for like 6 hours.
Yep.
And then when you get to other communities, it's 6 days, it's 15 days, it's
Mm-hmm.
30 days, and you can't thrive like that. And we don't
Right.
like the fact that so many other ethnic groups have come into our community and have amassed wealth off of our dollars and have given nothing back. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
our communities are in looking like they're looking in the condition that they're in, because they've not been resourced properly and are just ripe for gentrification. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. And so we came together to say, look, we have to support each other. We have to support our businesses. And that is a big undertaking as well, because of all of the different experiences that people are having, not only as consumers, but what our businesses are going through as well, or
Yeah.
even trying to initiate and start a business. You want to start a business in our community, you got
Mm-hmm.
to go through all of these hoops and loops. Your insurance is going to be higher. You
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about theft, licensing. It makes no sense for somebody trying to open up a
Yeah.
restaurant and it takes them 2 to 3 years,
Yeah. Bank loans.
yeah, and even
Mm-hmm.
to stay afloat, when you
Yeah.
talk about the bank loans, those loans that you need to help you, those bridge loans that you need to help you during those slow periods, can't get those. You want to expand. And so on and on. All of that goes along with the unfair resources. So that's why we started Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities in our own way, our small way, trying to make a difference and educating people about what's going on, and that we really have the power to change all of this. Our behavior has to change.
Yeah.
So that's why we started. And we are great supporters of our Black financial institutions like the Southside Community Federal Credit Union that's been around for over 20 plus years, giving, and they have a lot of products today for our people in terms of car loans, home loans, personal loans, loans in lieu of payday loans. Uh, they have a lot of products to offer, and they also give financial literacy classes.
Mm-hmm.
Ask people to support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union, which is located at 55th and Wentworth, right there in the mall. And then we are great supporters of our bookstores, as I was talking to you also about that before we started. Um, our books is where our history is.
Yeah.
Books is knowledge, and we need to maintain and be passing on the knowledge of our people and who we are, and creating new ideas to help us as we move forward. And so our bookstores are very important to us. And so there's been a resurgence of Black bookstores. We're supporting these Black bookstores. We even have an ordinance on the table that we're proposing to help finance and help our bookstores stay afloat. So we're asking people to sign our petition on change.org. And then what we do every month, we feature a bookstore on our website. And this month it is the Third World Press, and they are actually a publishing company, and they've been around since the 60s. But they are publishers of books, and they're located at 7822 South Dobson in Chicago. And they have their website is thirdworldpressfoundation.org. You go to their website, you can see the books that they have published, and you can purchase those books. So we're asking you to support the Third World Press. They are publishing they're publishing actually worldwide. They have an international presence. They're in Mumbai. They're in London, I believe. They're housed in a lot of different places. And then we choose a book from the bookstore of the month. And that book is The Support System by Dwayne West, which was published by the Third World Press. And this book gives a warm, delightful feeling that you can achieve and that the best is yet to come. So that's a message for you, Tony.
I receive it.
That's what this book is about. And so if you want to win
Mhm.
a copy of this book, we pay for the book. We want you to go and or order it or get it directly from the Third World Press. We will pay for it. Um, but if you can't get it directly, then we will pay for the shipping. All right. And all you have to
Mhm.
do is go to rrgbc.org and subscribe. That's it. No
Oh,
strings attached. While we always do ask for donations to help us out because we are a nonprofit organization, but that is not a requirement to win a copy of this book. But if you think enough of what we're doing, we ask that you do give us a donation. And then we have a directory. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have the International Black Pages, and we have Chicago Eats, who already have directories out here, and we have
mhm.
their links on our website. So if you're looking for a black dentist, or you're looking for a black construction worker, or a boutique, or a restaurant to go to, you can definitely go to those websites and find them. And so that's what we do there. So those are some of the things that we're doing, and we're also going to be starting up a book club. If you're interested, you can send us an email to blackbiz.grow@gmail.com if you want to become a part of our book club. We're going to be reading this book right here, Back of the Hiring Line, and that will start September the 8th on Tuesdays from 7 to 8. And it's a 200-year history of immigration surges, employer bias, and depression of Black wealth. Promises to be an interesting read and topic of
Mhm.
discussion for our book club. So that's my announcements for now. So we're going to get started with our guest tonight, Toni Brooks. As I mentioned earlier, she is a candidate running for mayor of Chicago. And so, Toni, my first question I want to ask you is, you describe your campaign as people first, right?
Mhm.
What moment or experience made you feel called to run for mayor of Chicago? Because you didn't run for alderman,
All right.
um, you didn't run for governor, you know, you ran for mayor.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, born and raised in this city, I've lived this city through multiple generations. And I say that as a child that went to preschool, junior high, high school, but also an individual who watched her mom take care of her mom after a stroke, to also being an individual who takes care of my mom after a stroke. I've seen nieces and nephews born, grow up, have kids. All of us experience Chicago public schools. And so the thing that really made me say, okay, I need to jump in was when I became the adult and taking care of my parents. I remember when I was 10, 11, 12, hearing the same concerns and disappointments that my parents used to talk about as far as living in the city. When I started saying the same things that they were saying, it made me realize nothing's changed. And I refuse to live through the city as an adult and experience the same that my parents experienced that was unfavorable. So from that, on top of someone asking me to run, and they asked me years prior and I said no, but when they asked me this time around, I said, okay, it's time. It's time. Yeah. Yeah. And then so I spent the past 4 years just talking to the people in the cities, going into the neighborhoods, just having conversations, seeing what their issues were, because I knew my issues. I wanted to know everybody else's. And this is before I even announced. I was underground doing all of this. So then I went to my little think tank, started creating actual solutions. I'm an MBA in finance, so money and math, numbers are my thing. So I started looking at data, because I'm also, one of my degrees is in business analytics data. Started looking at the data, started seeing how funds were used, how they should have been reallocated or allocated this way. And when I started having actual real solutions, the ones that doesn't raise taxes for taxpayers, because as a grown woman, I'm a taxpayer in Chicago, I said, okay, I really need to do this now. It makes perfect sense. And so my vision is citywide. It's big citywide. It's not a smaller portion like a ward in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, here they call Chicago one of the most segregated cities in
Mm-hmm.
in the country. And Chicago is a city of neighborhoods, and each with its own challenges and its own strengths. And so, how do you how do you feel that your upbringing and your professional journey shape your understanding of what everyday Chicago needs?
So growing up, living in a certain neighborhood, I'm actually still in the family home where I grew up.
Now, where
And
did you
then
grow up? What side of town?
West Pullman area.
West Pullman. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then I went to George Washington Carver. Now it's Carver Military Academy. But then when I was growing up, and if I wanted to go out or be with my friends, I would go downtown. And then downtown was a whole new world for us. But then when you look at that as an adult taxpayer, and if you live on the south side or the west side, that's not a good thing to go to another side of the city that you're in and feel like you're in a whole different world. And to some, it feels like a world that don't even want them part of it. So for me, it's experience, my personal experience, but the experience of people around me, and just having typical conversations with people and seeing how the city is ran different ways in all different neighborhoods that are on all different sides of town actually that's a big part of my solutions, which are my pillars. I call it the 3D strategy. And my slogan in itself, one city built home to block. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to do everything in a reverse. The flip side of how things have been done. And it's rebuilding the city, but starting with the person's home to the neighborhood. And then I truly believe the city can really benefit. So yeah, just seeing that growing up and experiencing that, how you're in a whole different world, even though you probably traveled 20, 30 minutes from your house is not a good thing.
Okay, so let's get to how you make this happen, because um, a lot of people make promises when they get in office, and then when they get in office, I assume they get into a room and reality sets in. And
Mm-hmm.
what that reality is, I can only assume. You've got these liaisons that you have to be able to establish with other people. And so there's compromises that have to be made. And we just got to have to look at the way everything is right now, you know. And our organization, we're concerned about the Black communities here in Chicago, because the Black communities have been gentrified. They have been systematically gentrified.
True.
They're ripe right now for any developers to come in and pretty much do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have strips and streets where they're sitting here with boarded up buildings for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yep.
Um, and so let's start there with gentrification. you know how would you address that? We have ideas, but you got to get in there and you got to deal with people who actually have a vested interest in our gentrification.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that's why it's important. Two things are very important. Be an educated voter. So knowing who you're putting in those seats. And I always tell people, don't get caught up on a person's political party, their gender, their race. Listen to the words that's coming out of their mouth. And to this day, if someone's giving you a bunch of political talking points but no real solutions, asking them direct questions. And if they can't answer it, that tells you right then and there what kind of seat they will be holding if they get in. Second thing is, I always tell people, when it comes to rebuilding the community, you have your wards, you have city council. Be mindful how you vote. So it's who you vote and how you vote. Because the mayor seat, I can have all these amazing ideas, but if city council don't want them, it won't happen. So when you're an educated voter and you're asking those qualifying questions, ask the questions with your ward, your neighborhood, your block, your home in mind, and make sure that they're saying something that aligns with what you would like to see for your particular Chicago. And so that's my thing. So in this seat, or in this race, I should say, I'm not playing politics. I'm not offering favors. I'm not even taking big money from corporations. I said it before I even announced that I was going public, that I'm going to set the expectation where I want someone completely uncomfortable even coming to me with self-interest and self-fulfillment, um, to even support me. That's why when I say I run a grassroots campaign, I run a grassroots campaign. I'm relying heavy on the people. And even when it comes to even having circulators, I tell people what my position is, what my platforms are, and what you, if you believe in them, then please support the campaign. Whether you're going to be a circulator, you're going to donate funds, but don't do it if you want a favor or simply because of my political party, my gender, my race. Listen to the words that's come out of my mouth. So that is very key. And then to answer the other part of your question about our communities being ripe for gentrification, when it comes to my 3D strategy, dignity, dollars, and defense, the dollars portion is your block, your neighborhood. I created what I call neighborhood wealth co-ops, NWC. That's my way of not just making a community or a neighborhood economically developed. I'm talking about building real wealth in a community. So the plan I laid out is co-op grocery stores that's owned by the people in that community, where they're going home with a dividend, where they're collecting a dividend check on a monthly basis. They're shopping in their stores, they're collecting a dividend check. That's when the money is circulating in the community. Also, co-op housing. If we can give $5 million to a Walgreens or a Whole Foods or a housing project, and they, the grocery store, they'll come in for about 6 years and they'll leave. or the housing developers, they're the ones that's making the real money because it's rental properties and they get all these stipends and they get the rental checks every month. We can give it to our own people. And I refer to us, the people, the taxpayer, as shareholders. So if we're giving that money and we build our own housing facility, which is a co-op, we can have true affordable housing where we are actually the landlords of our own places. You know what I mean? Or we're the actual owners of our own places. And that's another way for wealth to stay in the community. And I did rough numbers. I found areas in Chicago where these sites can exist. We still have some areas that have TIF funding available. We have some, unfortunately, that's expiring. But that's a way to save the neighborhoods and do more than building job and economic development. It's bigger than that. It's creating wealth and putting everybody in an ownership class, if you will.
Well, it sounds like a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, one of my questions would be, as you know, you said haven't asked people to fund your campaign, but most of the people around you
Mm-hmm.
getting funding. They're getting funding from corporations. They're getting funding from major developers, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
and that's who they're answering to,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily to the people. And this is
Exactly.
who you're surrounded by.
Mm-hmm.
So how do
Yep.
you what's your strategy for breaking through that? And 'cause we have and like you said, it's not about always about having the faces, because we have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of black aldermen, we have a lot of black state reps,
Yep.
we have our black caucuses,
Mm-hmm.
and look at what's happening.
That's
you
it.
know, Look at what they're doing. And
Yep.
so, but these are the people that you've got to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
that you've got to get to turn around, because nothing happens in the neighborhoods without the aldermen. And so how do you get these people to, you know, turn around and not listen to these developers or whatever that's putting all their money on the table, and because they want something different, because there is a plan in place for this
Mm-hmm.
city already,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it includes gentrifying and pushing, a lot of black people
Yeah.
out of the city.
Yeah. There's a 2030 project that's going to expand downtown a little bit, which could come with pushing people further south and west and
Mm-hmm.
making downtown a little bigger. That's why. So to answer your question, when you mentioned earlier, that's a true example of me running a people first campaign. I'm relying heavily on the people, and that comes with please vote a certain way. If you want to see certain things happen, please vote a certain way, because all the persons, their race is same timing as mine. And so if it's almost like if you have as an individual, you have a picture of Chicago, and now you're listening to your mayoral candidates and you're listening to your alderperson candidates, you actually have the ability, a very unique ability to line us up and say, I want this person, I want that person, I want that person, because they're going to make this happen. And so that's the thing, that's key for me. And so when it comes to the alderpersons, I could tell you like this. I retired about 6 years ago from a career in business development consulting. And when I go into these big companies, my specialty was creating win-win situations for both sides, the companies and the communities where they sit. So it's a matter of negotiation and having real conversations with people. That's where it starts. But I have, even as I'm campaigning, I have met individuals who don't even want to have a conversation, who don't even want to acknowledge that I'm running. But I'm just going to keep pushing, because at the end of the day, I'm still relying heavily on the people. If the people believe in what I'm doing, they're going to get me in there, and we're going to continue our plan for making this city fit for everybody and not just a select few. Making sure every neighborhood in Chicago has equal resources to thrive and not just survive.
I think one of the challenges is when you're dealing with politicians, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people want to know what's in it for me.
Yep.
If I support what you're doing, what's in it for me? what am I going to get out of this? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to be one of your challenges, you know, because
Yeah.
it just seems like our government is so corrupt in a
No,
lot of
you're
ways.
absolutely right.
And so that becomes a problem. So as you were talking, I do have a few questions that some people asked me to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
One is around the impact of immigration
Yes.
here in Chicago. You see the jobs. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. This is the strangest job employ work environment that I have ever seen, as far as people trying to get jobs. Somebody was just mentioning the other day. I think they called it ghosting, and people they'll tell somebody that they got a job, and then they call them back later and tell them that they didn't get the job. You know,
Mm.
get work and they don't get steady work. A lot of people, black people, having hard times getting jobs, and this also gets into another. We'll get into another question about education.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our young people, whether they have graduated from high school or whether they've graduated from college, having a hard time getting employment here. And so,
Yeah.
they're looking at immigration, and they're looking at the fact that they brought so many of these. The Democratic Party brought so many immigrants into this city, and
Mm-hmm.
they're skilled workers, especially when it comes to construction. We just went to a meeting the other night where the issue was brought up about on the 43rd Street strip between Drexel and Cottage. They're laying sidewalks, because they're laying sidewalks all over the city. And they didn't see no black people working,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they come up with excuses that our contractors, they don't have the value that they need to bid on some of these big contracts. Um, and and uh, and then you have these people. They come and they hang out at Home Depot, and they hire them to work, and some of them getting paid $300 a day. But what do you see as the impact of immigration on Chicago, and what would you plan to do about that?
So I don't think it's just one issue why, we as Black people can't find jobs. Because I went through that too. When I graduated from college, or even when I was in high school, I had a challenge finding a job. And back then, immigration wasn't a thing back then. Racism is still alive and well, you know? And unfortunately, these people, they are in these hiring roles. I have gone to the point where instead of putting my full name, Latonia, on a resume or application, I had to put my nickname. I've gone into, had interviews over the phone, and they're talking all these big things. And I'm sure this is what you mean when you say ghost hiring. You get there and they realize who you are, and they change their mind, or they try to change the published salary rate that they were going to pay. I've seen it all. I think immigration is not the only, shouldn't be the only concern when it comes to that. And I'm not telling anybody to do what I need, what I did, but I'm just going to give you a brief example of what I ended up having to do. That's when I first became an entrepreneur. I said, if you can't hire me, I'm going to create my own opportunity. But granted, things were probably a little easier back then than it is now. So it's not one fix for that. If someone wants me to say no to immigration, I won't say that. But what I will say yes to is our city has way more resources, that we have enough. See, the decision maker, they cry broke, but we're not broke. We have resources. We have job opportunities. We have funding. But the thing is, it doesn't get to our communities. And that's the huge issue. And it goes back into who you vote for. Who are you voting for to represent your ward and your community, make sure you're having the resources, you know? Because when I did certain numbers, to see like budget wise and things like that, we have over we have thousands and thousands of vacant positions that we're still funding. Taxpayers are still paying for, but they're not filling the positions. That's the thing. And why are they not filling positions? On this side of City Hall, I'm not privy to that answer. But on this side of City Hall, I see that that's the thing that's happening. We're still funding police officer positions, but they're not hiring, you know? And
Well,
so we have,
what we're seeing is we're
mhm,
seeing more immigrants in these jobs. We're seeing more immigrants on the police force. We're seeing more immigrants working on the streets. We're
mhm.
seeing more immigrants working in the hotels, coming into all industry, of the industries, as a matter
Oh
of
yeah.
fact. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
and so it's while it's not the only problem to consider, it's
Hmm.
it's a problem that has to
It's
be
a
addressed.
problem.
You know,
Yeah.
just like you get sick and you got this wrong with you and you have that wrong
Hmm.
with you, everything has to be addressed.
It's
So
a
the
factor,
question
right?
is, how
It's a
do
factor.
we look at how do you look at immigration and
Hmm.
its impact on the Black community, and what would you do about it?
Yeah. Well, my thing is, like we were kind of briefly talking about earlier, when it
Hmm.
comes to resources, they put a little bit in the Black communities, and we're
Hmm.
busy fighting over the scraps that other, because we're segregated, right? We're still segregated as a city. Other areas are getting a lot more resources, and they're able to do a lot more. So
And
that's my.
even with the immigrants, look at
Hmm.
the thousands of dollars that was put on the table, to house these people.
Yeah.
Uh, I was in Macy's. I mean, people standing in line. They got credit cards. They're in there
Yeah.
buying
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
And our people. No other country does this.
Yes.
You take care of your people, and then you turn around and when we start asking for something, then they start
Hmm.
talking about that there's no money.
There's no exactly. That's
And
and
so
I'm gonna give you an example.
as the mayor,
Mhm.
since he was the mayor of Chicago, he was a
Mhm.
Democrat, and what the Democrats was doing, they just all went along with it. Would
And
you?
and you, yeah. And this is
Yeah.
what happened with that. So Chicago is a sanctuary city, right? But when I started doing my research, we're a sanctuary city on paper, but we're not equipped to be a sanctuary city, meaning we don't have the infrastructure. We have the funds, we have the money and a budget to have the actual infrastructure, but decision makers aren't spending that money for that. So what happened with that situation? While we end up spending close to $400 million on the immigration, the migrants that came in, is because when they all came in the dead of winter, decision makers freaked out. They didn't have anywhere to put them. And what they did, once again, they went outside of the communities, went to companies that's not even in Chicago and said, hey, we'll pay you if you manage where we can put these people. Then they go to another company and say, hey, we'll pay you if you create the leases for these people. Then they went to these private warehouse owners and said, hey, we'll pay you top dollar to house them. So someone that whoever made those decisions, they made it wasn't very wise. I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, but it wasn't very wise. It was a race to a decision where if you're spending somebody else's money, not yours, you can say, okay, yeah, we'll pay for that. We'll pay for that. That's like, let's say you had a company, right? And you sent your team out to another state to go to like a conference. And they're out there spending, and you tell them build a company on it. They go out there, they instead of eating a salad, they eat lobster. Instead of staying at a 4-star hotel, they get a 5-star. See, they're spending money because it's not theirs. And that's what I truly believe in my research, what happened here. We weren't equipped to be a sanctuary city. And if we're going to play that card, we need it to be. Because if we were equipped, that that's where we felt disrespected as Chicagoans and as and in the African American community. They made this decision with all of this money, but they did it because they lack proper decision making in that. That's really what it boils down to.
Let me take it a little further back.
Mhm.
Our
Mhm.
president made an announcement and told these people to come here. Now we know when
Yes.
Barack Obama was in office, I think he sent more immigrants back than
Yeah.
any. But the president told people to come here,
Hmm.
and people came,
Yeah.
and
And one of
the
his
Democrat
friends,
and
which
the
is the
Democratic
governor.
city and the Democratic cities had
Yeah.
they're the ones that took them in. So
Yeah.
no, I ain't gonna say it was just bad decision made. I'm gonna say it was a calculated
Oh,
decision.
absolutely.
Definitely, it was a
Oh,
calculated
it
decision.
absolutely was.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
that,
And
yeah,
and it and
but
it
that's
and
my,
it hurt,
yeah,
and it has hurt our
yeah,
communities.
yep. And that's my thing. You know the phrase, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Our city should have been ready. We have all the resources to be ready in case someone wanted to do something that way. Because I think about it this way too. If we have a huge disaster in our city, I mean, we had one. We had where the smog was really bad, right? Our flooding is really bad. The first time I've ever experienced flooding that happened so quickly was 2 weeks ago. I'm 30 minutes from where my destination was. And within that 30 minutes, the street was so badly flooded, my car couldn't get down certain neighborhoods. When you think about that, we don't have that infrastructure. We can't even take care of our own in Chicago because we lack that infrastructure. Now, I agree 100%. It was all by design. There was a governor who's super tight with the president that actually dropped off a lot of individuals in our city. So it was to make Chicago fail. But that's why I feel disappointed with our decision makers, because at the end of the day, if we were ready, we have the infrastructure, which we can afford to do so, it wouldn't have affected us, especially our communities where money was taken away. And so that's my thing. My thing is, I know how to create the infrastructures. I know where to find the money without raising taxes. And if I have to make a decision, it won't be at the cost of the taxpayers here.
Okay, well,
Because I,
let me ask you
mhm,
that question then, because that's a big
yes,
question. Taxes.
yes,
There've been a big push about tax reform in this state, because
hmm,
the way they have the taxes set up now. um, our children here in the cities are not getting their fair share of the resources, and
yep,
people in wealthier districts are getting dollars and able to have country club type schools for their children.
yep,
People concerned about the taxes going up in this city for homeowners.
mhm,
um, so what give us something tangible that you
yes.
would do about around the taxes.
So for starters, in my 3D strategy, dignity, the first D in 3Ds is dignity at home, stabilizing the home. I'm gonna give you one example, but I have several, but I'm gonna start with this one. I am my mom's caregiver. I retired early because she had a stroke, and I couldn't find anyone to take care of her, anyone reliable. And so I researched, on average, an individual spends 7,500 of their own money per year to take care of a disabled senior citizen or veteran at home, on top of probably having to quit their job. So now you're struggling. So I created a tax credit, $3,500, called the Brooks Caregiver Initiative. I found the funds. I found the funds in multiple places, but one place I found the funds, when I mentioned about those ghost vacancies earlier, there's thousands. If I took away 400 to 500, and I'm talking about 400 to 500 of those vacancies that's been dormant for about 2 years that we know we don't even need. If I took the funds from that budget, because that's a cushion fund that they've been creating for who knows how long, I can unlock about what, 5 million to provide that tax credit to thousands of families in year one. And then how we would continue that mission is, instead of sending your loved one to a facility, which averages out a cost to taxpayers about 85,000 per year per person, you're saving that. And so it kind of, the funds kind of recirculate that way. Because again, I'm a numbers person.
And what about the
So,
schools?
well, I have to find out. And I still have not been able to find out, where's the lottery money because the lottery is supposed to be funding our schools.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
another thing is when you have like a neighborhood, right? And it's adjacent to a business corridor that's vacant. Those homeowners are picking up the slack in tax. You know, that's not fair, right? So it's never a one-time fix, right? It has to be a lot of like an ecosystem of creative and innovative ideas. But we have to get those vacant stores filled. There's so many small businesses that have potential that's turned away because how we mentioned earlier, you can't get a loan. It's a lot of permits to try to, but if you have people who want to open businesses, let them. Because what people always fail to remember, small businesses are the ones who contribute a lot more to the economy than the big businesses. That's an actual fact. You can Google
Sure,
that, you
sure.
know? So it's contributing to our small business owners and our entrepreneurs. It has to be an ecosystem though. It does. And it has to be a mindset shift for, for some of us as well. But with the whole tax thing, I'm very happy that my plans, my solutions, I found ways to make it happen without raising taxes. And I believe our CPS has to be on a set budget. We can no longer live in a state of emergency. They've been living in a state of emergency since I was a little CPS student. It's very stressful for everybody involved. And then when it comes down, when they have to get last minute millions and millions of dollars, now it's a more stress on the taxpayers. Not to mention being a kid in the school and being threatened that your music program may be taken away, your dance program may be taken away, you know? So it definitely has to be some deep forensic accounting has to take place. Definitely. We have to find where that lottery money is going. And we have to find out why CPS budget keeps being blown out of the water.
Well, people keep asking these questions and they
Mm-hmm.
don't get these answers. So, I mean, as mayor, what are you going to do about that? Because people have been asking, where's the
Yeah.
lottery money? People have been asking for transparency, you
Yep.
know, about where all the dollars are going.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I could say I was able to find out little things from this side of City Hall. You know, you're only privy to so much, right? And I do feel disrespected as a taxpayer like you and everyone who's watching for a person to spend our money but not tell us where it's going. But I can say as mayor, they're going to have to answer that question. You're
mhm.
going to have to. And by me running a transparent campaign and running a transparent seat, all of that will be published. I actually envision creating a portal that shows where the money is, shows where it's going, shows what decisions that's going to be made. Like when I say I run a people campaign, I run a people campaign, but I'm going to run a people seat. I acknowledge that I am literally a servant of the people. I'm an extension of the people. Because all 2.7 million of us can't go into that office and make a decision, they will send me. And I acknowledge that I will answer to the people because that's how I would want it for myself. And so I'm not surprised I don't get the support of certain individuals because I will do things differently. But so be it, right? But that's the thing. It has to be transparency. But first and foremost, there has to be some forensic accounting. I have to see where the money is going, how it's being spent, because my specialty is allocating and reallocating. And then there needs to be better decisions made with the funds that we do have. We have to get a better return on the funds that we do have, meaning investment in the tax dollars. Get a better return and we'll have a lot more money that we can work with. So it's all of that.
So when we look at our organization, like I said, we came about to address the issue of the dollar not circulating in our community. The fact that we have many other groups in our community uh, who have amassed wealth for decades
Mm-hmm.
and have given nothing back. And we talked about our businesses not being able to get the loans and the licensing and, they had the higher insurance, the higher burden of even trying to open up a business in our
Yep.
in our community. Um, what are you gonna do about that? We got all these vacant
Mhm.
lots. We got all of these
Yeah.
vacant buildings. You got strips down 71st Street corridor, 75th Street corridor, 79th Street corridor,
Mhm.
West Side, Madison Street. Just a lot of boarded up buildings
Mhm.
and some little grocery store here and there, and maybe a big facility for health or some
Yeah.
program like that, but no real economic, like you say, businesses. If you go up on the north side and you go
Mhm.
down Chicago Avenue and you go down Division, any of those streets, your
Yeah.
head is turned around like an owl because you see businesses, businesses,
Yeah.
businesses, businesses,
It's
businesses,
thriving. It's thriving. Yeah.
and we can't get anything in our
Yeah.
community, you know.
What? Yeah. The first thing I would do is find out who own all those vacant properties, and don't let me find out you're holding on to that vacant property for years and you don't even live in this city. That's my version of taxing the rich.
But that's
We're either
going to
going
be
to seize that property.
that's what you're going to see. That
Oh yeah.
is
Oh
what
yeah.
you're going to see because a lot
So
of those buildings
yeah,
have
and we're
been
going to take it.
built.
We're going to take it back. We're going to take it because at the end of the day, you don't have the right to buy a property and sit on it and drive everybody who actually also owns property, whether it's residential or commercial, drive their property value because you wanted to stay vacant. Because this is what people don't realize. They stay vacant because they get a tax incentive. If they can show they're operating at a loss, they're getting a tax incentive. So they're not in a rush to build that property at all. So we're just going to take it. And we're going
So
to,
is there a legal pathway to that, to be able
you
to for
can.
the city to do that?
Yep. And what happens is they have to sell it at a market rate. There's organizations, and out of protection to them, because I don't want to, it's like they're endorsing me, nothing like that. There's organizations out there that is exercising that now. I'm happy to see.
Hmm.
But that's how it needs to be. And then that's us. When I say us, I mean the people that's in a neighborhood, that's them taking control of their neighborhood. Because there's, like I said earlier, there's a lot of people who want businesses. And there's no reason why that piece of property can't be given to someone who's actually going to do something with it. Right. So that's one of the things. And then back to my neighborhood wealth co-ops. That's getting TIF funds to fund grocery stores for the neighborhoods that's owned by the people in that neighborhood. So now when you're shopping in your grocery store every day, your family is collecting a dividend check. Because I know if you give the TIF money to open up a grocery store to people in the neighborhood, they're not going to pack up and leave like a Walmart or a Whole Foods would do. And I'm
Yes.
tired of seeing these convenience stores that's supposed to be grocery stores, and you get there and the food is old on the shelf,
Hmm.
but that's by design. They will drain resources out of a neighborhood. They did it to the house that I grew up in, a neighborhood. Our grocery stores started leaving. Then we were stuck with these little stores that had old food. And then when my parents got older, they couldn't drive themselves to the store. So my siblings and I, we had to either order food to send to them or go to a grocery store for them, where they should still have a grocery store in their neighborhood.
And now they don't even have all just have old food. It's junk food.
Yes. Yes.
Is And they'll call it a grocery store, but it's
Yep.
full of junk food.
It really is.
The impact that this is having on the health of
Mm-hmm.
people in our community. Many of our
Mm-hmm.
young people who
Yep.
were growing up on this food,
Yep.
you
Which we
know,
feel is by design,
experiencing
right?
obesity and all
Yep.
types of health problems.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, and then guess what? Liquor stores, and now you have more dialysis clinics in each neighborhood. You have a church, a liquor store, and a dialysis clinic on the same block.
How are you going to deal with these aldermen? Because as I said earlier, nothing happens in the community
Mm-hmm.
without these aldermen. I remember coming home from the airport, and the guy that was driving the airport, I think he told me he was Polish. I think he said he was Polish. And as you
Mm-hmm.
come down to Kennedy, uh, maybe close to North Avenue or somewhere in there, there's a big church. You look over to your west, to the west,
Mhm.
there's a big church on the west side of that expressway. And that church is almost right at that expressway. And he was telling me that the city wanted to tear down the church when they put that expressway there because it was in the way.
Mm.
But the people in the community told the alderman, if they tear down this church, don't you bother to come back to this community.
Yeah.
How do you get people? See, our people have to be able to get engaged to
Yes.
to put pressure on
Yes.
these aldermen because they're not budging. I don't care what color they're in our
Yeah.
neighborhoods. They're black. They're not budging. Some of
Yeah.
them will get arrogant, and push back.
Yeah.
Um,
And they've been in
how
them seats for.
are you going to deal with these aldermen with these kinds of uh,
Mhm.
behaviors going on in our community?
And that's key. Like I need my people that believes in my vision to. This is why I really need them to step up for me on my behalf. Get me when you vote with your alder person, vote who you want your alder person to be. Vote as if they're going to be a partner to me. That's why I say I can have as many Q&As where you can grill me on my vision and my plan. You see, I come with numbers, I come with facts. And if you believe in that, find an alder person that has that same way of thinking. Because again, our elections are the same time. So I'm relying heavily on the people. That's why when I say a people campaign, this is a people's campaign. This is us deciding who we want in these seats so certain things can be done. So now let's fast forward. Let's say we still have some older persons in there that still wants to do things the old way. Then that's when my negotiation skills, that win-win scenario, my experience in that has to come in. But I can tell you this one thing: I would never be bought and sold by anybody. I answer to the people, and that's all I care about. And this is the time, though, I need the people to come through for me. And my petitions, get my petition signed, but also be mindful how you vote for those older persons. Listen to them, because we have to change the way we vote, right? We can't vote because we're familiar with this person. Oh, they've been there for 3, 4 terms. I'm not that affected by it. You can't vote like that, because now you have to think about it. Did you want a stop sign on your corner and you've been waiting 15 years for it? Honey, you need to vote differently.
Well, I think we
Yeah.
need to vote, but we have to get engaged. And I think what has to happen is we have to have leadership that are able to get people to move and
Yes,
get engaged. It's not
I
just
agree.
enough to vote. We
Go to
get
those
the votes,
forums.
and
Yeah,
so you have to have forums,
yeah,
meetings, ways to help people to understand
hmm,
public policy,
yeah.
that they can make changes, but they have to get involved. And
We
I
have to
think,
get back to like the block clubs and block club presidents and things like that too.
mhm.
Yeah,
And what about precinct captains? Would you bring precinct captains back?
I think precinct captains was an amazing idea.
Hmm.
I think having certain people in play forces accountability. You know, it's just, but it's really a matter of having the right person in there. That's the thing. But I think everybody should have. It's almost like an ethical, moral accountability setup. We need that.
Well, we
Yeah.
definitely need people operating in our best interest. And so my next
Yes.
question is going to be about our youth.
Yes.
You've seen the teen takeovers,
Mm-hmm.
and they've taken so much away from them out of the schools,
Yeah.
music, art, library, the vocational programs that could have
Yes.
led to careers. If you can become a plumber or an electrician or,
Mm-hmm.
a carpenter, you have work for the rest of your life, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and those programs were cut. And
Yep.
I say that was intentional.
By design.
Well, so we don't have they're not qualified to get these kinds of jobs out here. And with this poor infrastructure and lack of businesses and things going on in the community for our children to places for them to go,
Yes.
places for them, things for them to do. Um, what are you going to do for our young people? What is your vision and your strategy plans for our young people? And I'm
Thank you.
talking about our Black youth, because
Yeah.
our Black people are the ones that are being hurt the
Mm-hmm.
most. That
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the immigration coming here, whether it's the TIF funds, whether
Yeah.
it's how the money is being managed and not being transparent,
The vacant
boarded
property.
up buildings,
Yep.
all of that.
Yep.
Our people, Black people in Chicago, are being hurt the most.
Mm-hmm. So in my 3D strategy, dignity, dollars, and defense, in the dignity and defense pillars, it's a two-part thing. I have created two things, what you call the Scholar Bridge program and the Indoor Urban Common. Found the funds to pay for both, and I'll share that too. Scholar Bridge program. So in the dignity pillar, is all about keeping a home stabilized, where you have a person that's aging at home safely, but you also have a safe home where you will raise your kids. One of our challenges in our community is childcare. You may have that weird third or fourth shift where you don't really have, you need somebody to pick up your child because you have to go to work, or pick them up because you get off work 30 minutes or an hour, later than that. So within the defense pillar, I found funding to build third spaces two ways. One is our schools. Now, we're still paying, whether the schools are open or not, we're still paying the overhead to heat them, to cool them, to light them. So I've created, with the Scholar Bridge program, extended after school programming, where the schools are staying open a lot later. It's not going to cost more as far as overhead is concerned because we're already paying for it. But where we would get grants from is where we have to extend the teachers that's working there. But it's specifically a place for the kids who are parents who work third or fourth shift. So now there's a safe place for them to be. There's a place that, and in that space, they can do their homework. They have a nice meal. They may take a nap or whatever it is, till their parents can come pick them up. So now, instead of them being out in the streets during that time of 2:30, 3 o'clock when they get off work, and their parent doesn't get off work until 5 or 6, and they're out in the streets, they have this safe space. I found also the funds to pay for third spaces when it comes to, it's like the infrastructure I was talking about earlier. If we have some kind of a disaster here, we don't even have a place for us to go. So one beautiful thing about Chicago, a big city like Chicago, one advantage that we have over some of the other big cities is we still have space, and where there's space, there's opportunity. So we have buildings that's on the west side alone, across the street from Greater Mount Calvary Church. There's this building, abandoned building, old warehouse. It's the size of a city block. So when I talked about the indoor urban common, that's an indoor city block for our kids, our teenagers, and our young adults. If you can visualize it, it's like a typical city block, right? It has trees, it has grass, it has asphalt, it has stores, but it's indoor. It's a space that they can use 365 days a year. I sat down and talked with a small group of teenagers, presented that to them, wanted their insight. I said, what's some of the things you would want to see in there? And I was very proud of them to say out loud, they want resources in there. And I can see them thinking like, wow, this is a space that I can be. I can hang out with my friends. I can eat. I can still feel like I'm outside, but I'm inside. I'm safe. There's no, risk of being shot at. There's no risk of being kidnapped because it's a safe space. I found the funds to pay for that. So we have this construction budget that we're using to extend downtown. We're going to take some of that fund And we're going to build spaces like that on the south and a west side. That's where it's really needed. We'll copy the same infrastructure and blueprint and eventually take it up north and, but right now the south and west sides needs it. And inside that space, we're able to create jobs for those kids because they're going to work there. We're able to create little entrepreneurial sections for them where they can open up their own little pop-up store in the summers or something like that and sell their t-shirts. We're going to create where they can have like if they were in the park, they can play basketball or they can have their own little concert on the inside. But again, it's all indoor and they can do this 365 and I found the funds to pay for it. The thing is, decision makers, we have the money, but they spend it to where they want to spend it, but they don't spend it to where the people actually need it.
I think the other problem is we're allowing these wealthy developers to come into the city and
Woo!
Dictate what's going
Say it
on.
again for the people in the back.
They're getting too much control over too much land, over too much property.
115 Halston. That's what's happening there. Mm-hmm. And I have nothing against developers, but guess what? We have our own developers in our city. We have people that live right in the neighborhoods that know how to build properties, but we don't use them. We go outside of the city and hire these people that once they make their money in the city, that money leaves the neighborhood. They're spending it in Ohio, Wisconsin, Kansas City, where they are, instead of going to, your uncle across the street that we know for a fact that have been building houses for how long? I don't understand why people in the community, you can build a business with the talent that we have here in Chicago. I don't understand why that hasn't been done. If you can give that TIF money and that contract to someone outside of our city, let alone the state, you can't give it to a person that's been doing the work and they know the community like the back of their hand. But that's me making sure our money stays in the neighborhoods, because that's when you have real wealth. We're not just getting by on job creations and economic development. No, we're going to have wealth in these neighborhoods to the point where my vision is every part of Chicago, all 4 sides, would be to the point where it's seen as a destination area. Now, when people fly in, they don't have to just stay downtown. They can go on the south side, get a nice hotel room. I was talking to my friend the other day. I have a TV interview, right? And I need my makeup done and they don't have space in the studio. So I said, well, where can I get my makeup done? Let me just get a hotel room in the near area. So we look up where the studio was. Oh no, there's no hotel that you want to go to on the south side of Chicago. That's crazy to me. It's ridiculous. And we have the space and opportunity to have that.
There is a black hotel, I believe it's a black hotel on, oh my goodness, 30s. It's in the 30s or the 20s. Near Michigan, I think that is, or King Drive.
Is that Bronzeville area?
The Southside Hotel. There's a hotel over there.
Oh, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, look that up. There is a hotel. And that's the other thing when we talked about connecting. We're past the top of the hour. I'm going to let you have your final say so, about what your plans are. If you were elected as mayor of Chicago.
Thank you. So you're giving me the floor. I would say I am the one candidate that has actual real solutions. So when people ask me, oh my God, you're crazy, why are you doing this? I'm confident in my solutions. And so I'm more excited about putting these things into play than I am fearing the actual seat, right? So I encourage people to go to my website, brooksforchicago.com. We're slowly but surely we're updating the 3D strategy on there, my pillars, my platform. It may adjust slightly because as data changes, as they're spending money, I do adjust my my strategy. I have to, right? I have to stay on top of the money. But I can tell you this, the strategy that I have doesn't raise taxes. We don't have to. We have money. We don't have to raise taxes. You just have to be innovative and creative and smart enough to reallocate the funds. I'm also asking people to do a few things if they don't mind, if they believe in this campaign. host a Q&A, bring me in, ask me the hard questions, host a meet and greet. I spend time every week. I go in all different, I have a like 77 neighborhood tour that I'm doing. And I have this sheet that I work off of. I know what the concerns are in each neighborhood. So I go, I sit, I talk with the people, I hear from their mouth. I go back to my think tank and I adjust my plans if I need to. I call it the playbook that I've co-written with the citizens. I've been spending 4 years having these conversations, and I'm not going to stop. Then I also encourage people to become a circulator. Right now, we are heavy in petition season, and we need a lot of signatures in order for me to get on the ballot. And vote wisely when it comes to that mayor's seat and the alderperson seat. But anything other than that, if you reach out to me on my website, I am reachable. I'm not unreachable at all. Just fill out the Ask Toni section or send an email to contact@brooksforchicago.com. You can follow me on all socials. I do follow back. And the handle is Brooks for Chicago, BROOKSFOR Chicago, across all platforms.
Okay.
I think that's it. Mm-hmm.
Good luck. I wish you luck. We have strategies, a lot of good strategies or ideas. Your challenge is getting people to change the structure of the way things are being run in this city. I'm trying to remember who brought forth the penny tax to try to balance the budget. Remember that? And they want to put that on the table. And wouldn't nobody, would nobody want to go along with that? Because they don't change the structure. That's your challenge. I see, and getting our people motivated and engaged to support anything. So, But
because you've been beat down so long. It's a lot of people who gave up hope. But I've met people that just me talking to them and they just break out in tears. And I'm talking about men and women.
Sure.
The frustration, right? So I get it.
Nobody's listening.
But let's
like nobody's listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. If you look back and your neighborhood has been the same for 10, 15 years, it's frustrating. And you're paying taxes and they're constantly being raised, but you don't see anything different. Yeah. Yeah. I am that adult now that's going through that.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Our podcast. We wish you well. We have a lot of work to do here in Chicago.
Yes.
There are a lot of needs here in Chicago. Our safety here in Chicago. And especially in our Black neighborhoods, which is we are so concerned about because we're bearing the brunt of a lot of the downside of it.
Yes.
So okay. Well, this is
and I have a strategy for that, so they can just go to the site and they can read about that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, Toni Brooks, she's running for mayor of Chicago. Check out her website and follow what she's doing. And as we say every week, remember to support Black businesses. We have to support our own. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for what you do.
All right. You're welcome.